Going one, sold. You're listening to the Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod, your accessible and easy to listen to podcast about the real estate game. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined by 414 Property Co. real estate agents John McGregor and Patrick Berry.
I love it. Real estate game.
Yeah, I know. I'd gotten through the first bit that I always try so hard to do because I've got it written down in front of me today. And then I was like, oh, crap, I don't know what comes next. So I'm getting there slowly but surely.
I think game could be a good word for it because it often can feel that way.
I think I would normally say property market, but today,
it's about the game.
It's all about the game.
It's all about the monopoly.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. As I say.
Something like that. It's good to be back again. This is our second one for the year, and I just want to say thank you to everybody out there that has jumped back on board, or if you were first time listener last week, it's really good. We had really good numbers last week, kind of after a break. Sometimes it takes a little while to kind of, everyone to jump back on. But straight out of the gate, whoever's subscribing. And
Gotta love those push notifications your phone sends through.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thank you for the people that have followed us in the past. And I think there's actually a little bit of growth straight into 2021. So let's continue jumping forward. And
we'll try not to let you guys down this week then.
Yeah. Look, who knows? They could have been like, I really enjoyed what they had to say. And they're like,
cliff dive. Yeah. Now I feel like it's The Price is Right with that man and the dog going up the hill.
Oh, man, wasn't that just your favourite game? And you just be like, yes, it's the yodeling man.
Yeah. Why did they only play it once in a blue moon?
Because they wanted you to watch every week just in case the yodeling man come on. Yeah,
that's right.
There's definitely a method to their madness. It'd be a sales technique for sure.
Oh, look, I went down a rabbit hole of watching Hey It's Saturday clips at this point, so I'm going to have to go back and find The Price is Right at this point now for the yodeling man.
I was only listening to something yesterday where they were saying that Gogglebox TV show's way better if you watch like it from 5 years ago rather than like the current ones, because you're basically watching the show you've already watched, just having someone else watch it.
That makes sense.
But if you watch it from 5 years ago, it's kind of shows you forgot even existed.
See, I'm kind of the opposite because I don't watch free-to-air TV. So when I watch Gogglebox, I'm like, is that what happened on that stupid Love Island this week? That's funny. So to me, it kind of like it's like the full week captured of TV, so I don't have to watch it during the week.
It's actually a pretty good point as well. Yeah. All right, I'll give you that. So yes, there's many ways to watch Gogglebox. There's many ways to play the real estate game.
You heard it here first. No, you didn't.
All right, guys, let's jump into some real estate stuff today. We've got a bit on today, so we'll just kind of get in and be a bit punchy. Let's talk about this moratorium.
Yeah. Well,
John, you've walked in, you said, it's over, baby.
It's over. Well, that was the emergency legislation put on the Tenancy Act for COVID. And because they had extension after extension, and it now came to a full end on the 1st of February.
Just before we get any further, just treat me like the guy that does know nothing.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. I'd heard the word. I'd seen it come across the thing. And I know, like, listening in the offices, there's been this stuff that's come up. But can you explain it to the layman?
Yeah, sure. So it all started back in March last year.
Are you explaining COVID too?
There's this little thing called a virus.
Yeah. Now a virus is
Look at your face. Yeah. So, oh, cool. Pat's got the info. He's about to deliver it.
And now you've ruined my train of thought. No, seriously. Back in March, the Tasmanian government put out this moratorium to help tenants ensure they felt safe while the unknown of everything that was happening in the world.
Sure.
And as a result, we couldn't raise rents. We couldn't evict tenants if they stopped paying their rent. It was basically to ensure a safe place of housing for people while the pandemic was at a high and with all the unknowns that were happening.
Yeah, that seems great. That seems really kind of...
And then it sort of extended on and on and on. And look, here in Tasmania, we're pretty lucky. Obviously, a lot of people were able to get back to work. It's sort of one of those things that it's good that it's been there to help tenants, but as well, there's been a lot of burden for a lot of landlords. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. So depending on which side of the fence you're sitting on, some people are excited it's ending. Some people are a bit worried that it has ended. And look, you're never going to please everyone. It's just sort of one of those things, isn't it?
Exactly. And I suppose with it gone now, the key elements, like I said, that were there were to be no increases in rent at all, and any notices to vacate that were issued were not to be taken effect till 1st of February. So even if unless they relaxed that for a couple of changes during it, but effectively everyone was locked in place, or if they wanted to make any changes, the tenant could happily stay in the house till the 1st of February until that was to take effect.
Okay, yeah.
So there was an interesting couple of things that came out of it too. Is that the real number of people that were adversely affected by the monetary side of needing to be able to apply for a relaxation in their rent or a cancellation. It ended up being an exceptionally small number that came out from our institute.
Okay, yep.
So which is a great thing. You don't want anyone you don't want the news to be that more people than not are adversely affected by it.
Yes.
I think one of the outward pressure that began where people were applying for extension was just saying, look, there's little proof at this point to justify this continuing restrictive legislation.
Sure.
Because, for example, we had a property in Glenorchy, and this is now going to be coming on the market. Now, and unfortunately, this is a case where the owner was a private landlord and the tenant did the absolute wrong thing. The place is an absolute nightmare of a property, but during this legislation, hopefully he was hoping to get her out by, I think, September or something at the time, or I can't remember the dates exactly. But as they extended it, well, then they got another free quarter of a year worth of rent because the no notice to vacate could take effect, even though that weren't paying rent, were trashing the property, and there was just, in order for the applications to apply, would have taken too long anyway. So that was an example of a bad instance where the landlord had to bear this bad responsibility of the restrictive legislation.
That's what I'm just having a quick look here. So there's kind of double-edged sword in some ways here because really good for people that fall on hardship, but as you mentioned, there's kind of
there's room to rot the system.
Absolutely,
yeah. So
and there always is
a safety net there just in case people fall and need the safety net. Which it's really good that there wasn't so many people that needed the net. However, the net was there. But then also, just looking on the other side of things here, kind of landlord support kind of is the other side of things. And if you're a mum and dad investor or someone out there that's kind of just trying to rent out your old house, and then you've fallen into the situation of having someone that's happy to rort or mess with your property, then you've fallen on a hardship throughout that time.
That's right. Yeah.
But luckily here we were pretty lucky that most tenants did the right thing.
Yes.
And probably one of the reasons why it's now been sort of taken away and we're back to normal from a rental side of things in Tasmania.
Which is great, which means that, on both ends that there was an exceptionally small minority of both people that needed it and took advantage of it.
Yep.
So in all respects...
it did its job.
Yeah, exactly right. And now it's...
So now moving on from here, so I've just read here that 1st of February, so just a few days ago, it kind of was finished, or the emergency legislation was lifted.
Yep.
What does it mean for the market or for landlords and renters now?
From a practical sense, it means that any notice, normal notice to vacates, can will take effect. So that doesn't mean it has changed. So you still need to provide sufficient notice at the end of a lease.
Yep.
But say in the instance where, with the emergency legislation in place, you wanted to issue, the lease was coming to an end, you wanted to issue notice to vacate, or you issued notice to vacate for multiple reasons, it doesn't matter. That notice wouldn't take effect until the 1st of February unless it was negotiated by both parties that they would happily move. So if take with my investment property, for example, there was a small rental increase, but that was supposed to come into effect pretty much of... was it May last year?
Yep.
But now they will only increase, they've just increased on the 1st of February, for example.
So is that increased to what it would have increased across that whole period? Will there be a massive jump in rental prices now? Will it go from kind of what would have been a small jump to a massive jump, or? Any increase still has to be able to be justified by the market. So if you've got an existing tenancy where you're negotiating a increase with a lease term in place, that still has to be able to be justified. So if you've gone from a $400 a week and now you're trying to ask for $550, but all the rentals in the area are $420 a week, well, the tenant can absolutely dispute that and say this rental increase is not justified. Okay. Which I know we've talked about that, I think, when your mum was on the show in the past and stuff like that.
Yep.
I just like because there was kind of a pause on being able to raise the rent, and now landlords may have found themselves in a hardship position.
Are they going to want
Does
to
that create a perfect storm where they're like, oh, look, well, we need to get our finances back in check, and then everybody in the areas that are now able to lift them, so the market actually is artificially. Well, I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Could that artificially?
it's like putting pressure on a spring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that you've released that pressure, it's going to go boom and shoot up to the ceiling.
I'm just spitballing just from kind of the very little I know from here.
I think that's a common concern that would absolutely come out to say, well, look, is everyone going to be in a worse situation now? And what that legislation now, it's released and now we're back to our normal, standard affair, I guess you could say, is it returns back to the same discussions we are having, which is, well, fundamentally, it's a lack of available housing that's the problem.
Yes.
And all those layers of legislation would try and restrict increases or limit the capacity for people to move freely or make their own decisions in that sense or negotiate freely. Well, now this will be an interesting test because obviously I don't think Tassie's had that circumstance before. We've had such a restrictive legislation, you could say, and now we've returned to normal. So the next 6 to 12 months will prove interesting. But I know some of our landlords opted to sign long-term leases, locked in 2-year places at this point, for the concern that they didn't know what would happen in 12 months' time.
Yep.
With it coming to an end, many regulatory bodies sitting there arguing for the tenant's sake were hoping for it to be extended or that these rules would then now reapply into the legislation. And I think those those conversations and arguments will always still be made. And however, it'll probably still be another 6 to 12 months, I suppose, before we really see the long-term effects of this 12-month period.
Okay, cool. So I guess it's kind of just as a heads up, this is what's happened. The lift has been lifted, or the what's the word?
Moratorium.
The moratorium has been lifted. It'll be interesting to see what happens across the market. So if you're a landlord or you're a renter or you're looking to buy an investment property, it's something just to have a little bit of knowledge about moving forward.
Well, and I only got a message from a friend last night. She said her and a couple of mates are still having a really hard time trying to find a rental property. So fundamentally, the landscape from what it was like before COVID hit to now, it just hasn't changed.
Yep. Cool. Rock and roll. All right. Well, look, we'll cover off on that. We might jump off to a break and we will be right back with a little bit more info.
414 Property Co. All types of property for all types of people. At 414 Property Co, we believe that property is for everyone. White collar, blue collar, no collar, dog collar. Whoever you are, we will find the property for you. Contact 414 Property Co at www.414.com.au.
All right. Actually, we'll go straight back into John's wheelhouse today. He's been doing a bit of research on this one. You've been reading The Guardian, my friend.
Yeah, I thought this was a fun. It was a fun.
Yes, it did come through on the weekend. It's like, oh, this is how I spend my weekends, just reading The Guardian.
All my newspapers have the longest names. That's how I justify my
I just
reading.
finished the Financial Review and have now moved on to The Guardian.
I've unfolded it in 3 different ways just to be able to open
Well, he
it with
sent
my
a photo,
hands.
didn't he? It was the entire dining room table of the newspaper.
Yeah, near his little speakeasy piano.
Well, when I read the newspaper, I like to be pretentious. And I want to be punching people in their faces that my newspaper is that big.
I just felt the cigar at 9:30 in the morning was a bit too much, John.
Well, but the scotch was delicious.
All right, enough rubbish.
It was an unproductive day. Well, it was just a fun little article where it was focusing on the fact, I think what the headline was, clean air and an amazing house pandemic, Treechange's grab a slice of apple aisle.
It was.
Well, that was one hell of a heading.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a cracking
my
article.
newspapers can fill the big heading. That's what.
Actually, the next article I wanted to talk about has a bit of a pun in the headline, so it'll actually be good to lead through.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah, so this article basically is talking about it's kind of a nationwide article saying lots of people that are looking for a tree change or sea change.
Yep.
Tree change is another one of those ones where I just can't wrap my head around saying tree change. I just find it's really tricky.
Rolls off the tongue a bit harder.
Yeah. Are looking at Tassie as a beautiful state, Tasmania, our backyard, and the article's kind of just saying that the population growth is just going to be crazy with this kind of work from home revolution.
Well, and this to me, this is not new information at all at this point. You know,
Simon Presley told us about this months ago.
exactly.
So, yeah, it's sort of A lot of people are suggesting it, so it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 12 months.
Yeah, and that population growth is key. And it wasn't it in the Norquay future plan as well. They were anticipating how many thousands of people growing just in the community. Glenorchy community alone.
Just looking through this article, it just says Tasmania hopes to grow its current population from around 530,000 to 650,000 by the middle of the century.
Yeah.
So it says an increase of 22%, which normally we have a recession of people leaving the state and kind of,
and that historically that had always been the case. Yeah. And that's sort of now from 2015 onwards now, where that's was the conversation for a lot of what's going on in the Hobart real estate market. Well, it's just we continually now everyone's now their eyes have opened up to the potential of the state. And there's no looking back at this point. And I remember being a part of a think tank about it was in Glenorchy actually, and about the future plan of what Tasmania could be. And in my mind, I thought if you could have the capacity that it could be known as a high technology state, and you had good access to the internet resources, that there's no reason why people wouldn't start flooding here and live here, as opposed to if they didn't have to have if they could work from home.
Yes,
Tassie was a phenomenal opportunity, and it seems that that's starting to play itself out. And COVID would seem as a catalyst now that now many people are thinking, well, actually, as a regional centre, maybe it's even better, because it's coupled with the fact that if you do have that concern at any time, we can just shut the gate effectively, and you can have that feeling of safety that you'd never had to really think about, I suppose, previously in our generation. And there was a gentleman I met once. We sold a block of land at Brushy Park, and I can't remember if I've told this story in the pod before, but he was looking after a block of land that was bestowed by, it was a Canadian billionaire at the time, and
You've told this one.
Yeah.
Keep going though.
You've got to keep going now.
Yeah, tell the new listeners.
But he obviously he could have bought land anywhere on the planet, but he chose Tasmania in the end, specifically because it's Australia, so it's relatively stable government. You'd say it's a first world country, highly educated. In Tassie, you've got the cleanest air on the planet. There's no real natural disasters. So, and then he chose to buy this land. He died apparently before he ever had to build his fallout shelter. But this bloke was obviously thinking way ahead that now everyone in the world's starting to catch up for.
Yeah, no, I have heard that one, but it is a good one. Yeah. A classic John anecdote. As soon as he said Canadian billionaire.
Here we go.
I actually think last time the story, the guy was from Texas. I actually reckon John was like, well, I think.
Oh, that one. No, I'll keep going with anecdotes. Actually, we'll just do a cut John anecdote session.
Tell us about the Texas guy again.
The Texas bloke. He was the one that said. No, he's the guy that goes, there ain't a problem in real estate that price cannot cure.
That is exactly what I've heard. I reckon I could splice that with the old audio of it, and it would be exact. No, look, this article is actually really nice in The Guardian. It's kind of, speaking of your, no, I shouldn't say that. Just going to say, there's lots of old people in this article. Yeah. It's just all grey-haired people saying how great Tassie is.
We don't want to...
Can't alienate our grey... Nan's our biggest listener. Yeah.
Speaking of those old people, I'm talking to you, Nan.
I know I want to keep it in.
Yeah. See how you go with it.
All right. It is a really nice article. I know we're having a bit of fun with it, but there is a lot of grey-haired people in the article just talking about how their decision to move to Tasmania was probably one of the best they've made in their lives. They've had long lives, and a few of them have moved to the north of the state. Some have moved to the south. It's a good read, John. I'm glad that you pulled it up and sent it through.
Yeah, it was. It was just a nice. It was an investigative article in that sense, by getting a bunch of different people with different backgrounds, different experiences, and moved into different areas as well. So it's not just a focus on the south of the state. And I mean, that seems to be true with locals as well, where our own little mini Treechange is there. We might say rather than living in Hobart, we'll move to Rosebery or something. Three. So it's where that element where even Tasmanians are thinking a little bit differently.
All right. Speaking of mining towns or areas of production, did you guys see this Watamana story?
No.
Did you see? I think you sent it through to me.
Did I?
How the whole basically selling the town of Watamana.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
It's like Schitt's Creek. Have you guys?
Yes, that was cool. That was amazing.
how good is that? I'd love to get the agent of whoever's got that listing and just talk to him like about his like how he's marketing it.
Maybe sell a whole town.
Yeah, because I saw
We could
somewhere.
probably reach out. Might as well send an email. Eh?
Yeah, well, we should. Like, I just saw it, and he'd said, I've never had an experience like this. But as soon as it said, like, this town, like, I've been through Watamana, and looking at it, it had like the people that said they were going to buy a pool table or something like from the area, and they just fell in love with the whole town and ended up buying the town and moving there for 25 years. I'm like, this is
That's
like a
remarkable.
sitcom in itself.
Yeah, that's so true.
But yes, speaking of that, like, man, your little Canadian guy might want to move to Watamana.
Yeah, we would have probably at the time.
You never know.
God bless his cotton socks.
All right, we need to get back on track. We'll go to this other article I pulled up, and this one's right in Pat's wheelhouse. This is the one I was mentioning that had a bit of a pun in the title. It says, sports grants making a wheel difference.
Oh, snap.
Thanks for that one, David. That's a good one.
So this is a article about the Glenorchy City area, BMX related. Pat, can you
Well, the
dive
article
into it?
is about Tasmania in general and about all these grants that have been given out to fund community sort of. It's called the Playing Fields Grant Program, done by the sports minister Jane Howlett, and she's basically given out $3.7 million to improve facilities for sporting clubs right across the state.
Yep.
But what obviously I was really interested in is what I guess in our area, the things that are coming to the sort of Glenorchy area and the surrounding suburbs that it would be a benefit to our community since, we're in the northern suburbs.
Yep.
And obviously the biggest one is actually my BMX club. They've actually received $250,000 towards their new track, which is being built up at Tolosa Park. So
Fantastic.
that's quite exciting because we'll be getting in total a $750,000 BMX facility in the suburb. So
Geez, that's good.
yeah, it's really exciting because it's going to provide a UCI track, which basically means that we can host national events, world events here in our own backyard.
Yeah, right.
And really be allowed to grow the sport and, hopefully get some good tourism coming this way as well over the years.
It's pretty amazing. We had my son's first birthday party just up at Tolosa Park the other day, and every hut was full. That skate park thing was full.
Yeah.
Like, just there was thriving with life. And I was like, imagine putting in like a whole professional, like what, $750,000 you say?
Well, it's exciting because it's got the BMX park will be going in there. They're also spending millions of dollars redoing the downhill mountain bike park, which is directly behind it. They're putting in a dirt jump facility and also a pump track facility in there as well over the years. So it's going to be quite a large biking hub for the sort of area. So, and then on top of that, the area is also receiving a brand new skate park down at the Montrose Bay foreshore. So
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah,
Was that down near the deck and stuff, near Gasp?
yeah,
Is that-
where the little playground is around from Gasp.
Oh, yeah, cool.
You got the playground and the sailing squadron
Yep.
and the high school next door. So there's a brand new skate park going in there, which they've secured $250,000 to build, which is pretty
nice.
exciting.
Yep.
And what else have we got? Sorry, I'm just reading the article. The Claremont College Community Gym is also getting a $220,000 upgrade. So that's to go towards Glenorchy Basketball Association. So, yeah, we're getting some good facilities in the direct area. And
So the greater Glenorchy area is kind of getting a real boost across its community front.
well, it's the Glenorchy City Council. They've done a great job at submitting applications and so they had to submit the grant applications to the government.
Yep.
And obviously whoever's written their applications for them have done a good job because they've secured 3 grants. So they've in total, it's nearly $750,000 in grants they've received to actually improve the suburbs like sporting facilities.
Absolutely. It wasn't until you got into it and I've been just vicariously listening to your stories and living it through that I think the mountain biking element is just so ridiculously exciting because the attraction from both nationally and internationally, if it's at that level of people just coming to our state, will just be a little pin on the map. We have to go do that track.
Yeah.
And that's exceptionally exciting.
Well, it's just the state in general is becoming crazy popular for downhill mountain biking. Like Medina Bike Park is the world's largest downhill mountain bike park now.
Does it really?
Yeah. And people come from all over the world obviously they haven't recently, but they were coming from
Hopefully
all over the world to visit it. And like the Nationals being held there this year. So Tassie's definitely on the map for biking.
But again, this relates to
all back
the
to that previous article as well. It's all about that natural green living and that ability to explore an adventure sort of that you can have.
Yeah, no, look, any growth for the state is good, and that's development pushing forward, and that's great for, homeowners and people in the community. So that, there's no bad news coming out of
That's right.
the government giving money to support
the community grants.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but know that, the Glenorchy City Council is putting in their own money as well, and they're spending, around the $1.5 to $2 million mark, I think it is, on just improving facilities in the area. It's just fantastic. I think that's going to be a real buzz to, for young kids and for families in the area. It'll just help the area grow and become more accepted because there's exciting things happening here.
Yeah,
I think it'll make a real big difference.
Oh, I think so.
I really believe that too, mate. we certainly don't want to put a brake on these kind of things.
Yes, no, very good. All right, let's end the show there for today. We've had a bit of a loose one, but we've got there. Thank you for everyone that joined in and listened, to all those people that started listening last week and thought it was really good. We apologise for this week's show.
There was one of our new clients, actually. She said, I've started listening to the podcast. I said, good. Well, don't start the first one. That's a bit rough. So start at what we've got and work backwards. So it'll be a couple of weeks before she realises what's going on.
Yeah. She's like, I trust my house with these guys. All right, guys. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. See you next
talk
week.
To you next week. Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Co.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.